Hello, it's me again. Today I want to talk about something unusual again. So whenever you see me in the frame, I am talking about something that is rather unusual because it is more opinionated. I'm giving more of my opinions rather than just showcasing my collection, my DVD or video CD collection. So actually, I've been wanting to show my Don Bluth animated movie collection on various formats. I have them on video CD and on DVD. I really want to share those Don Bluth animations with you guys that I have in my collection, but I think rather than showing the regular showcase of my DVD collection, you don't see me in the frame. I'm just showing my collection. One, because I do not have that many of Don Bluth movies on home video format. I still have to find a lot more Don Bluth movies on physical media. And second is because I want to talk about something a little deeper than that and a little more interesting than just showing the Don Bluth animation on home video format. So a while ago, I made a video and I uploaded the video on TikTok about me talking about the life of Don Bluth and in particular about his career in filmmaking and how ironic his career really is. So first, perhaps let's just try to find the Don Bluth movies in my collection. From the most famous one, I think here I have The Land Before Time. This one is on video CD. And of course, I made the video about that particular series already, and you can find that in this channel. And of course, a lot more Land Before Time movies, but not directed by Don Bluth. So they're just using the IP, The Land Before Time, and the rest of the series is more like direct-to-video sequels. And of course, the best one is the first one, the original Land Before Time. So this is the first Don Bluth collection that I have. And he also directed something that is popular and great, but where is that movie? It's over here. We got this DVD version of An American Tail. Of course, this is also by Don Bluth, directed by Don Bluth and released by Universal Pictures. And then we got some more with Fox Animation Studios, because he was the director in Fox Animation Studios. He directed this movie called Anastasia. I have this one on video CD, and he also directed this movie, one of my favorites, Titan A.E. I prefer this movie, honestly speaking, I prefer this movie than Disney's Treasure Planet. So this is one of my favorite, really, Titan A.E. So these were released by Fox Animation Studios, or 20th Century Fox. But I think a lot more movies, they were released by Warner Brothers, if I'm not mistaken. So one I can see, Thumbelina. This one is also by Don Bluth. This one is on video CD, the Warner Brothers Family Entertainment. And then from Warner Brothers, we also got... where is that movie? Yeah, this one. A Troll in Central Park. This is the video CD of A Troll in Central Park. And I think that is all that I got in my collection, the Don Bluth movies that I have in my collection. There are, of course, a lot more, like The Swan Princess, and then the sequel to An American Tail, and then The Secret of the Nymph, but I do not have those on physical media format. So this is why I decided not to make a regular showcase video, because my Don Bluth collection is very small. It's not really extensive or complete. But I want to talk about the Don Bluth animation really after I rewatch Ghibli movies, a lot of Ghibli movies. So earlier this year, I purchased the complete set of Ghibli movies on DVD, which you can find in this channel. Also, I talk about that in deeper discussion. But here's perhaps the showcase. I have this small collection of the Ghibli still books. This one is The Wind Rises. This one is From Up on Poppy Hill and Arrietty and Totoro. But the thing that made me really, really want to discuss this is the irony between what happened to director Miyazaki and director Don Bluth. So if we look back at the 80s, Don Bluth worked with Disney. So he was one of the animator for The Fox and the Hound, which is also one of my favorite movies of all time, The Fox and the Hound. There it is. This is like the best Disney movies about friendship, other than Luca, of course, but Luca is Pixar. So yeah, so this is a brilliant, brilliant movie about the friendship between Todd and Copper, and Don Bluth participate in making this movie. But then he left Disney and he ended up directing The Land Before Time and An American Tail, which were very, very popular and very, very successful. So when Disney really entering the dark ages with The Black Cauldron and those movies from the 80s that were not so successful, The Great Mouse Detective, Oliver and Company, those were great films, but not really successful. I mean, compared to An American Tail and The Land Before Time, Disney could not compete. So Don Bluth was beating Disney in their own game. So yeah, Don Bluth was very, very talented and very, very popular during that time. And in the future, people projected that, oh, he could be the great, great animator, building more to his career, building a better, empire of animated movies. But we know that that's not the truth today. We know that many of his movies from the 90s are not successful. I mean, Thumbelina and also Titan A.E. Titan A.E. marked the shutting down of Fox Animation Studios. There's another story about ex-Disney employee that created his own empire. That is Jeffrey Katzenberg. From the 80s, he worked with the Disney Animation Studios, and he was one of the key person who helped to nurture the Disney Renaissance that we now know today. So he oversees the production of those films, like from The Black Cauldron and then Oliver and Company, and then those movies had to go through his approval. So yeah, he helped build the Disney Renaissance that we now know and love. So he really, really knows things about animation. But in the mid-90s, he departed from the Walt Disney Studios and he created his own studios with Spielberg. It's DreamWorks Animation Studios. In the 80s, I mean, when Don Bluth were making movies, he also made movies with Spielberg. I mean, with Amblin, those things. So Don Bluth and Spielberg worked together. And in the 90s, Spielberg and Katzenberg worked together. And there's something funny about what happened in the 2010s because Fox were purchased by Disney. So in the early 2000s, the 90s and early 2000s, because the DreamWorks, their movies were distributed by Universal Studios, in my region at least. So Disney got their own animation studios, and there's Pixar, and also Fox got the Fox Animation Studios, but Universal, they did not have some sort of animation studios. I mean, a lot of their famous animations, they were created in, partnership with Spielberg, with Amblin Animation, so not their own animation studios. They didn't have the Illumination studios back then creating Minions and those popular films. So I think they distributed the films from DreamWorks Animation Studios. So in my region, I talk based on my own experience in this region. The early DreamWorks movies, they were distributed by Universal Studios. So do I have some sample here? It's rather... Yeah, this one, El Dorado, in my region, this one was distributed by Universal Studios. The distributor that distributed the DreamWorks movies in my region, it's the same as the distributor that distributed the Universal catalog here. So El Dorado by Universal, and then the rights to the movies went to Paramount, I think, So many of the DreamWorks movies released here were distributed by Paramount in the mid to late 2000s. So do I have some sample here? I'm sorry, because yeah, I put the DVD back here. So here are just some samples from the Warner Brothers and from DreamWorks. DreamWorks Animation Studios, this one, this one is Monsters vs. Aliens, and then How to Train Your Dragon, and How to Train Your Dragon 2. How to Train Your Dragon 2 was distributed by Fox, but the earlier ones, this one was distributed by Paramount. The same thing with How to Train Your Dragon. But then in 2013, started with The Croods. DreamWorks movies were distributed by 20th Century Fox. So The Croods, Turbo, and the second movie of How to Train Your Dragon, it was distributed by 20th Century Fox. I don't know if you can see that or not, but there's this 20th Century Fox logo over there. This one was distributed by Fox Studios. But in 2016 or 19, Disney eventually purchased 20th Century Fox. So what happened? The rights to DreamWorks moved from 20th Century Fox to Universal Studios again. So back like in the 90s and early 2000s. At least that's what I experienced here in my region when I saw new DreamWorks movies. The logo, the first logo that appeared is the Universal Studios logo. So Jeffrey Katzenberg had the means, had everything. He could escape from Disney. So if his relationship with Disney was not as good. So it's not a good relationship between Katzenberg and Disney because the history of their history back then, it was not really good. So he managed to escape from Disney. So when Disney bought Fox, he would never allow Disney to own his catalog, to own DreamWorks movies. So all of the rights moved away from Fox to other studios. It's better to go somewhere rather than being under the umbrella of Disney. So that's what Katzenberg did with DreamWorks Animation Studios. So I often made this like a joke. I mean, when some people ask me why you still collect these physical media, I always say that, well, if you stream, you can never find Shrek in Disney Plus. But I have Shrek in my collection here. Just for a fun sample, I have Shrek on my collection here. This is the DVD of Shrek. And I can put Shrek next to my Disney collection here. So for example, I took Toy Story and put Shrek next to Cars and Toy Story 4, and Jeffrey Katzenberg cannot do anything to prevent me from doing this. So you cannot have this on Disney Plus. I don't think he would allow Disney to distribute Shrek or any of the DreamWorks Animation Studios movies, I guess, but this is what I can do. If you have Shrek on DVD or Blu-ray and you can put the movies next to Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, now imagine that when you open Disney Plus and you find Shrek on your feed, that is just not possible, at least not while Jeffrey Katzenberg's still here. So that's what he did, but that is something that Don Bluth could never do. I mean, he just like Katzenberg left Disney. I mean, his relationship with Disney was also not as good, so he left the studio. But then we know that his movies from the 90s, they were distributed by Fox because they were created by Fox Animation Studios. Fox was purchased by Disney and now his catalog. So Anastasia and Titan A.E. now belong to Disney. And so a lot of people now in culture also mention Anastasia as a Disney princess. So that is so, I think for me personally, to see that that is just so sad. I mean, he couldn't escape from Disney. I mean, even after, in the 80s, he produced those brilliant animation but those animation that he created in the 80s managed to beat Disney. And then now Disney bought the studios that were, owning his works, his movies. So his catalog's now back to Disney. And that is just very ironic. I mean, if he got the power just like Katzenberg, I don't think he would really want to allow that to happen. And again, back to Miyazaki, that is one irony about Don Bluth and Jeffrey Katzenberg. And another irony is about Miyazaki and Don Bluth. So this is something also interesting. When I watch Miyazaki movies, the Ghibli movies, you can find the pattern. I mean, the design of character, the character design between one films to another, it's not really that big of a difference. When you watch Disney movies, I mean, from Snow White and Pinocchio, Fantasia, all the way to The Lion King and Pocahontas, Mulan, you can see that there's this Disney theme, this Disney style as in a generally speaking, you can feel the sense of Disney, but the character design is different. Even when the director is the same, I mean, the director for Little Mermaid is the same director as Aladdin and Treasure Planet and The Princess and the Frog, but you can see the difference in character design between one movies. I mean, the character design in the Little Mermaid is totally different from the character design in Treasure Planet, so even though they were created by the same directors. But that did not really happen with Ghibli movies. I mean, the design, when Miyazaki created a male character, they really look alike. When you put them side by side, they really look alike. I mean, there are a lot of Ghibli characters that really look alike across films. And what happened in the popular culture, people really praise that. So a lot of people on TikTok, on Instagram, they were making reels and short videos talking about the Ghibli characters and how they really look alike, but they appreciate that. They really appreciate the Ghibli style. They just sort of embrace it as the Ghibli style, that the character design between one movie and the other is just practically identical, but they're just like, oh, this is amazing. And I do not have a problem with that. I watch Ghibli movies and I think those films are great. The character designs, they're great, and I do not have problems with that at all. But something interesting is because I also, find a lot of discussion about Don Bluth. And while people praise Miyazaki for making the same character design, people really mock and ridicule Don Bluth and criticize him negatively for making the same character design over and over again. Now, if you take a closer look at his movies, I mean, from this Anastasia and then Titan A.E. and also Thumbelina. Where is Thumbelina? Where did I put that video CD of Thumbelina? The lead male characters, the prince in Thumbelina and Dimitri in Anastasia and also Kale in Titan A.E. Their character designs, they really look alike, and so people criticize that negatively. I mean, while people praise Miyazaki for doing this thing, but they ridicule Don Bluth for doing that thing. Oh, Don Bluth can only design one character. He couldn't design, he couldn't make a diverse character design. He only knows how to draw one particular man or woman, because if you take a look closer, the female lead also really look like there's this Don Bluth character design that you can see there. That is just very ironic for me. I mean, other directors or film creators can really excel in what they're doing, and people will embrace that. For example, like Katzenberg, he could, detach himself from Disney and really make that barrier between him and Disney and not allowing his works to go to Disney's umbrella. That is something Don Bluth could not do. I mean, he didn't have the much power compared to Katzenberg, so he couldn't do a lot to prevent that from happening. But I think if he got the chance and he got the opportunity not to allow Disney to own his works or associate that with his works, I think that is great. I mean, whenever people talk about Shrek, they know the distinction between Shrek and Disney. They're never really mixed. DreamWorks and Disney never really mixed. People really differentiate the two studios. But with Don Bluth, I mean, he really tried so hard to differentiate himself from Disney, but at the end, people in the culture still think that his movies are Disney movies. I mean, those people who think Anastasia is part of the Disney catalog is just really upsetting for me. I mean, there are a lot of videos out there with millions of views, thousands of likes and comments. I mean, the list You know, they're listing the Disney movies, the Disney princess, they're listing the the most popular Disney princess or the best Disney princess, and they include Anastasia there, but it's not really that. I mean, well, it's one thing if Disney purchased Fox and own the movies, but these happen culturally. So culturally, people accepted that Anastasia is part of the Disney catalog, which is not true, and that is really, really sad for me. He couldn't do anything like Katzenberg to really differentiate his works from Disney, the company that he left in the 80s. And then to make that worse, people really, really criticized Don Bluth harshly. I mean, they're criticizing the character design, but other creators, they did exactly the same thing, and people praise that person for doing so, but then criticize Don Bluth. It's just insane for me. I mean, when you're comparing the character design between one movie to another, that is not really fair, because we need to judge the movie from that movie, not judging from other films. I mean, if the character design is the same there, but the story is different, it's just using the same character design, then what's wrong with that? I mean, when I watch Titan A.E, when I watch Anastasia, when I watch Thumbelina, I see them as different films, and I can really, really put myself in the story, because the story is so different, and I can really enjoy the stories, not looking at the character design, or he looks so similar to Dimitri, he looks so similar to the prince in Thumbelina. I don't have a problem with that, because that is what people do a lot. I mean, directors have their own signature, those things, and that is one of Don Bluth's signature, is to create the identical male lead, which Ghibli also do a lot. I mean, even with different directors, I mean, it's not just Miyazaki, but the directors are different, but the same character design. But people say that, oh, that is still positive, that is still good, but not with Don Bluth. That is really, really sad, and also very, very ironic. So that is actually the point of this discussion today, that made me, want to talk this further, is to question about the reality, and to question about the fate of people, how different people's fate can be. I mean, when this person do this, he really, really succeeded. That person do this, he really, really succeeded. But when another one tried to do the same thing, he just failed. I mean, when I talk about Don Bluth, it's not that I'm saying he's a failure. No, he's a successful director, a lot more successful than many other directors. But just looking at in this picture, comparing him with Miyazaki and also Katzenberg, who they share similar journey. Part of the journeys, they're similar, but the different outcomes from the world, different outcomes from the society and the studios. And it's really, really sad, because again, Anastasia is part of Disney movies. A lot of people really consider Anastasia as a Disney princess, and that is really, really sad. And you can't change that. I mean, you can't shift between studios like Katzenberg did, but you can't really change people's mind that easily. I mean, it's accepted, like generally accepted by a lot of people in real life. So it's very difficult to change their mindset. But Anastasia is not a Disney movie. It is part of the rebellion against Disney. It is part of the, I don't know, it's the counter movement to Disney. It's an answer to Disney movies, Disney's challenge, Disney's, massive ownership of the animation industry. But then at the end, eventually people still think that, oh, that is just another Disney movie, that is just another Disney princess. It is ironic and it is sad. So I just think that is an interesting story to share with you guys. And again, this is not, I don't think this is really, really 100% factual, because this is just based on my own observation and my own opinion. So it's really opinionated. Perhaps Don Bluth doesn't have this kind of thought process. He doesn't really think of it that way. I mean, perhaps he sees people linking Anastasia to Disney as a good thing. I don't know, but this is just based on my own experience and observation, that it is sad and ironic to see Don Bluth and him being unjustly criticized for what he's doing, while others excel in what they're doing. I think that is all that I wanted to share with you at this very moment. Again, bear in mind, this is just my own opinion. And if you have different opinion, that is fine. So that's all. If you're still with me up until this very moment, I sincerely say thank you very much. Take care and goodbye.